us again, and welcome to Service Area 7's Coffee with a Side of Healing. My name is Jaime Gomez, and I'm going to go ahead and popcorn it off to one of our lovely guests today, and I'm going to pick randomly, even though I had pre-selected Jennifer Hallman.
I was wondering if it was actually going to be random or not. Hello, good afternoon. Excited to be here. I'm Jennifer Hallman. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am the new lead manager for alternative crisis response in the Department of Mental Health.
And you get to pick someone, Jennifer, who you want to
randomly. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the game of popcorn. I'm going to pass it to I was going to say an old friend, but not old, but just I've known Manny a long time. So Manny, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Jen. Manuel Rosas, Manny. I am the Service Area 7 Chief with the Department of Mental Health. And as always, I'm happy to be here. And we have two awesome guests here with us to talk about a brand new program that's everyone in the community has been asking about. So we have our two experts here. So I will popcorn over to our other expert panelist, Mr. Shawn Kim.
Wow, big shoes to fill. So my name is Shawn, and been a program manager for the past 2 weeks. But prior to that, I was a PMRT supervisor for 7.5 years, and that's how I ended up serving a role in ACR, and kind of how I got connected with Jen. So grateful for it. And I'm gonna pass it over to Vanessa.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Bustos, and I am with the PRC Fall 7. I am a community health worker. I will go ahead and popcorn into Brigida. And last but not least, I'm Bridget Brigida Salinas, Service Area 7, Administration, Health Neighborhood Liaison, School-Based Mental Health Coordinator, and also Clergy Collaborative, Faith-Based Liaison.
Cool, awesome. So I do want to thank our awesome guest for being here. Again, like Manny mentioned, this is a great new program that we have for Service Area, not for Service Area 7, but the department in entirety. But we're glad to have them here for the Coffee with a Side of Healing podcast. And let me see, what can we do? I'm not sure if maybe Shawn or Jennifer would like to kind of, just fill us in on the name of the program and kind of how it got started.
So I'll start. Shawn's shy sometimes, so I'll start. So alternative crisis response got started many years ago. Essentially, the Board of Supervisors tasked the Department of Mental Health and other stakeholders in the county to put together a work group to really look at our entire crisis response network and identify where there are gaps. And that also occurred at the time where there was a lot of social unrest, a lot of unfortunate incidents, unfortunates being used lightly here. It just really some negative incidents where there was officer involved shootings that involved the mentally ill. And so all of those things kind of all came together. There was also a federal initiative to make getting a hold of mental health crisis easier by changing the National Suicide Lifeline number over to a 3-digit number. And so all of those things came together to create what's known as alternative crisis response. And the idea behind alternative crisis response is that if you're in a crisis, a mental health crisis, a behavioral health crisis, substance use crisis, is it really should be mental health that responds. It's not a crime to be experiencing a mental health challenge. And so we want to really make sure that when possible, that it's the mental health programs that are responding to that. And so that's kind of how ACR came to be. Not too long ago, feels like a long time because we've been putting in a lot of work, but in under Dr. Wong's and Connie Draxler's leadership, they formed a ACR, Alternative Crisis Response Unit, within DMH to take the lead for this. That's where Shawn and I come in. And I will say, Shawn knew before I did that we were going to be asked to be part of this. And kind of a funny story that I will share is I was texting with Garrett and Shawn over the weekend, one weekend, and Garrett Horn, if I don't know if people know him, but he made a joke about like, you know, I'm not sure if I want to do this, but if I get to work for you, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, that's funny. You're talking about me being your boss. Haha. And then like 6 hours later, he's like, it kept going. And then he was like, wait, you don't know? And I was like, what are you talking about? Turns out I was going to be assigned to a new program. So that's how I came to know about ACR and how I got involved. Sorry, long story.
No, that's good. That's good. You know, it's funny. Intuitively, I'm probably gonna get it all wrong. So, alternative crisis response, right? Does this mean that basically, like, is this specifically for mental health crises? In terms of dialing 911, they would dial the 988 number. Is that correct?
Yeah. So really, so there's kind of the big picture, and then there's the smaller. The simplest one is, instead of calling 911 when you're experiencing a mental health crisis, and it goes beyond mental health crisis, it could be a substance use crisis, any type of crisis that really does not need law enforcement, use 988 instead of 911. So that's one piece of it. But ACR is taking it like 10 steps further to say, let's look at our entire crisis response network and make sure that that we are treating individuals in the lowest level of care needed when they're in crisis. And we're not diverting to jails, we're not diverting to law enforcement, that we're really keeping it in our network and handling it safely before we're going to other means. So ACR becomes kind of bigger than just 988.
So it's kind of like, sorry, go ahead, Shawn.
Sorry, I was going to add a big part of it is this paradigm shift in how we view what a mental health crisis is. And so we've realized over time that a mental health crisis really starts like way before our system's kind of set up to acknowledge. You can see it developing when someone doesn't get the services they need. The symptoms get worse, and so what this is really trying to do is establish the periods, the resources that are necessary to be able to intervene before that even happens. After it happens, because there's not often the right kind of support after someone gets discharged. That's why they're re-hospitalized so many times. And so we're trying to establish a crisis continuum of care. And it looks at not only like the overt crisis, but early identification and the ongoing care after the stabilization at the hospital.
Which is huge, right? Because I know, Shawn, you've been doing the rounds from town hall to now podcast here in Service Area 7. That was the big ask from our community, from even here within our stakeholders. That was the big ask. It's okay, so what is it? What is 988? What is this new acronym that's coming along the way? So making sure that you're disseminating this information and really supporting individuals with the various crises that present ourselves, you know, I think is definitely a big ask, right? But you're able to respond to it and really meet the need of those here, specifically even when we talk about Service Area 7. So kudos to Jen and you and the remainder of the team.
Thank you.
And I think, because Shawn and I talk a lot about this, and so Shawn, jump in here, but I think, you know, I want to be careful to say there's a lot of work to be done. There are huge gaps in our system that need to be filled in. We're not there yet. But I think what we have right now is we have the vision for and we have people who are making it a priority. I mean, I've worked for the department for a long time. And, I think this is the first time that I've been involved in a project where it's like, Jen, what do you need? Who can we help? Like, what do you like there's just people come. I was in 2 days of workshops the last 2 days of, private philanthropy wanting to come in. How can we help you? We want to help you guys make this. LA County right now, everybody's looking to LA County for what you guys are doing and what you're going to be doing in this area. How can we help you? I've never been in that experience, like had that experience in the department. Not for it, but it's just everybody is prioritizing this work, and we have a lot of work to do, but it's exciting to see where everybody's supportive of it.
Yeah, just to add to that, when I was first getting to know Jen through ACR, I don't know if Jaime or any of you have been able to identify this yet, but I'm super like corny and idealistic. And so I'd be like, we got this, let's go, right? And then it took, I would say, less than a month. It took like less than a month when I realized, oh my gosh, we're not gonna see like the fruits of this anytime soon. And so, what Jen is saying is fun.
Hey, Shawn, I'm right there with you. Ask Mr. Rosas or Brigida or Vanessa. I'm the same way. But you know what? I do want to say, just going back a little bit, it sounds like there is a preventative component to what you guys are doing as well, right? It's kind of really trying to triage these crisis cases and kind of connect them to the right resource before escalating it, correct?
That's the hope over time, definitely.
I apologize in advance if I geek out over this. So again, in my past life, I used to work in a call center, and that was like my prime objective was like really triaging and getting things done correctly. So you guys are doing a monumental, taking on a monumental task here.
I used to work at a call center too. I used to work for 211 LA County back in the day. This is not ACR related, so I apologize for this, but
No.
Quick story. I used to answer because I would take Spanish calls. Se me olvidó mucho en español, pero trato de hablar cuando puedo. But what would happen is I'd answer these calls and I'd be like, buenos días, soy Shawn, ¿cómo le puedo ayudar, right? And we'd be like, Shawn, right? So over time, I was like, this isn't working for the community. So I just started answering. I said, buenos días, soy Juan, ¿cómo le puedo ayudar? So the whole entire workplace at 211 LA County just said, hey, what's up, Juan?
That's so funny.
Pitching to his audience. I love it.
No, that's so great. So I used to take calls too, and I actually had access to the server, so I knew how many calls we were taking per day and all that stuff. But I think dealing with the community, that's where you really learn if you have it in you, because at that time my schedule was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and it never failed that on a Friday at around like 4:45. Close to quitting time, something would explode. There was a crisis, there was a situation, something would always happen. And that's really where you find out, like, if you have what it takes to really want to do this, right? Because, McDonald's is always hiring, or the shoe store is always hiring, but it really puts, how would I say, you really find out what it takes, right? If you really got that patience to work with people, to kind of help them through that situation, or if you really need to escalate it, which I'm sure I probably called your unit a bunch of times too, be like, hey, where are you guys? We have a client in crisis.
I think one of the other pieces with ACR is I think there's like with the whole like prevention and again, I take everything I say just really came from Shawn and Garrett. So I just want to give that like preamble of like, they just taught me so much in all of this. But I think if, you think of somebody in crisis, and if you're going straight from like, oh, I need help, and then all of a sudden, maybe they're getting hospitalized, or maybe you have law enforcement coming out, that now carries, hopefully it was all done well and in a safe, like good way, but there could be trauma there. So now you have not prevented anything, you've added to it, and then also created that, like, I don't want to say like revolving door, but like that idea of, if I'm in crisis, oh, okay, that's going to be hospitalization. It's going to be the police coming out. It's going to be all of those things, versus let's go with like the least restrictive, the lowest level of care first, and try to handle it that way, so that we don't even want to bring people into that full crisis network. If we have to, though, we want to make sure that it's there, right? And we have all of those pieces, so we don't have to rely on an ER or a psych hospital. But maybe we could do a crisis stabilization unit first. Like, maybe that's a better first stop than going all of that way. So, but we have to have that continuum of care along that entire network, so that we can get people where they need to be and handle it in the best way possible.
Heavy hitters, right? Heavy hitters. You're definitely aligned with Service Area 7. All these heavy hitters really looking to bridge that divide, do the heavy lifting, shifting the paradigm. But you were saying, Shawn?
Oh, I was gonna say, it's absolutely untrue. I mean, Jen, we have some people making the right decisions, because I really can't think of a single person that's better to put this all together than Jen. And I think a lot of it just has to do because of her experience in managing QA and things like that. And so when we're like, Garrett and I are constantly texting each other, like, how does she do it? And it's because she knows all parts of our system because of what she does, what she's been doing over the years. And so she can speak the language of the clinics, speak the language of crisis. And we're sort of flabbergasted at those abilities. But
then that other fun language of admin and finance and all. I mean, because we can't do this, right? If we don't, we need funding, we need contracts, we need, all of these things. But, Shawn and I are really here just to boost each other up and say how wonderful.
Well, Garrett would text me before we actually got together, and he was like, you're really going to like her. And I was like, well, she does the QA. She's probably like super boring and stuff. And turns out that's not true. But yeah, those are the biases that I had going in.
No, I think that's really good. But the points you both are making, I think it's how would I say, it's instrumental. Like, you have to have all those components. Like, you have to be well-rounded. You're taking on something huge. I'm not sure if other cities, states are following suit similar to what 988 is doing. But I mean, I'm always the one that says things like, it's about time. It's a side, how would I say, before the pandemic hit, we knew that the system was struggling. We knew that there was gaps that needed to be filled, that, not everything was working out, even though we all worked really hard, not everything was perfect. And I think the pandemic just highlighted those gaps and those holes. And so what you guys are doing in this time, it's very needed, but it's something that it's good. Kudos.
Amen.
You guys.
Hallman, after experiencing your Service Area 7 Peer Resource Center today, I was thinking to myself ACR stuff, because when we're talking about like post-crisis support stabilization, the majority of the people that we see, they don't have adequate support, right? When they get out. And I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, if we can over time make that connection where there's a peer resource center here, after you get hospitalized, I know you don't have a whole lot of support, but here's where you can go. And just because I felt so impressed, I was like, I'm not in crisis right now, but I'll hang out with you guys. So yeah.
Yes. If I can just piggyback off of that. That is something that the PRC is already working on doing, collaborating with different facilities, just letting them know that we're just the perfect match for aftercare. Because that is where you see that relapse and recovery, because they're so used to all the support. And then we let them go back into society, back to their environment, and they still need those tools and support. And that's where I think the PRC would be perfect. So that was going to be my question. When it comes to 988, after they come in and intervene, is there that aftercare support, or is there connection to resources?
So I think, so I was actually I just did a presentation with our friends. They're quickly becoming our friends at 988 because we meet with them on a regular basis. And I was just presenting with them this morning, and we put this into the contract, but I think it's always different when you hear it about it being done. Is 988, depending on the crisis, they will call the caller back like in 15 minutes to check on them, right? It's like that immediate follow-up. There's also then, depending on the level of care, then there's also I'm going to call you back and check on you, 24 hours later, 48 hours. So it's not just a one-time call. They're doing that follow-up. Our new contracts for MCOT, which are our mobile crisis outreach teams, similar to PMRT, but they also have a follow-up component to them. And then all of these pieces of the network are also required to do that like linkage and getting you connected to the services, because I think we all know, right? If we don't do that piece, they're just going to end up being in crisis again. And that doesn't help anybody. And so I think I think every time we talk about this, like I just get more excited about the ideas we hear or the potential around this work, and just hearing the excitement in the community and the ideas that are out there. I think, Shawn and I will go do a presentation, and it's like, have you thought about this? Like, you need to account for this. We need to make sure that this population is addressed. And what are you going to do here? And I think the exciting part right now that I get excited about is we got a long way to go, but we're in that like design development phase, like planning. We have resources. I mean, we can always use more resources, but it's like, we're putting together a crisis training academy, and it's like, okay, what cultural aspects do we need to take into account in there? Like, what do we need to train people on so that all aspects of our crisis network are together? Like, it's just exciting to think of, here's what I think we need, let's do it. Or what other people think we need. I think that part of it is certainly exciting right now.
I'm going to bring it back to what Shawn mentioned, and I'm going to try to fold everything in together. So don't let me get lost. But in terms of the PRC, Shawn, I am impressed myself, and I'm gonna advocate to changing the name to the little engine that could, because it's only 4 of us, and I am so impressed. Today, I was equally impressed, number 1. But number 2, I think in terms of what Vanessa said, I was thinking the same thing the other day, So we're doing our rounds ourselves in terms of presenting throughout the service area, and we got the opportunity to present at the adult and older adult FSP impact meeting. And at the end of the meeting, or at the end of the presentation, I said to the audience, I'm sure you guys are all wondering what we're doing here. And I'm like, we are a resource for stepping clients down. We are a resource for aftercare. There's appropriate levels of care, but who's to say that a support group can't help anybody out, right? And we might even be, in combination of whatever treatment they're receiving, a resource. So kind of just putting it out there, like, sometimes, and again, from my call center days, the protocol was someone gets hospitalized, they get discharged, and they're supposed to be assigned to an appointment within, a certain amount of time frame, right? Well, maybe including in that packet a referral to the PRC, the resources that we have, the groups that are out there, so that they can be connected and we can help support, the continuum of care, right? Continue to support them, make sure that they don't fall through the cracks, that even if they don't make that intake appointment, because I think one thing that I learned too is doing that is that it can be very intimidating for the community members. Like, they just got out of a hospital and they're like, you mean you want me to go back to one of those places? They're like, no, I'm good, bro. But I think, yeah, the little engine that could, for sure, keep that one in mind. And but definitely aftercare, using the PRC as aftercare in terms of just providing that support, the support groups, even us being able to link them to other resources if needed. But absolutely.
Go ahead,
I
Shawn.
was just going to say, you guys are spot on, because the national standards for a crisis network are a peer center, right? And having that as part of your network so that you can connect individuals like back, right? Like that should be an option, even when somebody's in crisis. Like maybe they don't need a crisis stabilization unit or an ER or a psych in a hospital, like maybe a peer respite center. Like maybe they just need somewhere to go to be with peers and with others during that, so 100% is we just need to find a way. And that's all what this is right, is, ACR, they kind of have this slogan, if you will, of someone to call, someone to respond, someplace to go, which does include peer centers. And then we kind of, even though others had not included a fourth element to that, we did, because we thought it was important, was we also added someplace to treat. And because we don't want to just stay in that crisis area, right? We also want to get connected into treatment and have it kind of come out into that other area. So we've added that one in just because we all got together and we thought it was important.
Love that vision. Love that implementation. When we think of crisis, right away, it's like, I don't want to touch that. That's crisis, right? When we hear it from our community, whether it's our SALT or a town hall or even our meetings, right? Our community's like, crisis. But when you think of the concept, right, and these ideas and how you respond, it's like, wow, we are shifting the paradigm. We are having these dialogues. We are disseminating this information, which is huge. It's huge in Service Area 7. And when we align, right, we're like pushing the envelope and going into scary unknown territory. Manny always says we're building the plane as we're flying it, but we're in a really, really good place. So again, circling back to all the kudos here for everybody, Shawn, Jen, and all of the innovative people, all of these innovative minds. It's like a really, really exciting time. I'm going to absorb all that energy, combination with my coffee, and we're in such a good place.
Yeah, and crisis means different to different folks, right? So for each one of us, if we went around here, we'd all probably define a crisis differently and what we would expect as a response to crisis. So it's great, because I know that's one of the things when we're doing community outreach events, the community does ask. They get overwhelmed by our county acronyms, right? We have PMRT, PET, ACR, FSP, PRC. There's so much. Oftentimes the community asks, so what number do I call and what do I ask for? And I think it's useful to have all these systems connected, because there shouldn't be a wrong number or a wrong door that somebody goes in through. They should just be able to get support. So with ACR and 988, is there certain days, or is it a 24/7? Is it I know we have on our background, we have our DMH helpline. It's for LA County. Is it just for LA County, or how does some of that work for people who are watching this?
Okay, so I'll try not to get too technical and in the weeds, right? So essentially 988 is a national number, right? And I've been giving the example, my son's in kindergarten, he's learning 911, right? Which he keeps doing 991. And so it's not quite there. We're still learning, it's still getting it, but that's something they teach in school. And so just like 911, we want 988 to become that's something they teach in school, right? Because it does. I literally was having this conversation with my kids the other night about, the difference between 988 and 911. And, my 9-year-old, she's like, well, I think 988 is for your head, for how you're feeling. But 911, that's where if there's a crime or something safety, I need somebody to protect me or help me. And I was like, that is so that's what we need to be teaching kids and all of the public, right? Because it's, I think people call 911 because they don't know where else to go. And so we want to get that's ultimately the goal, is 988 becomes, that's everybody knows that nationally, right? That becomes, everybody's known, they can go that route. And then let 988 be the one that kind of determines let me triage this and determine where the best place for you would be, which, hopefully it's not 911, but there are going to be some public safety situations where 911 is needed, but then they can connect you there. If you need somebody to come into the field because they can't help you over the phone, you need Shawn to come out. Well, not anymore. Now Shawn, well-deserved promotion. So he's not coming out anymore, but we probably could get him like after hours or something. But you need somebody, they'll connect you, right? Like that's the whole idea of where we want to get, where it's like the same thing as 911. Everybody knows 988.
You know what's funny that you mentioned that, Jen, is that I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not in that world anymore, but then it dawns on me, wait, I am. Because when we're thinking about this continuum of care, we're thinking about ACR is going to have to be connected to clinics. We're thinking about how it's going to affect the intake process and all that. So it's just wild. You think, oh, I'm removed from this crisis, arena, but actually, no, you're not. Over time, everything's going to be intertwined.
Shawn, I'm coming. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
But I'm coming for Shawn now. Like now it's an easy in, right? Because we got in service area 3, and Manny, we're going to talk about what we can do in service area 7. But service area 3, I got Shawn Garrett, who's doing the field, right? He's going out in the crisis. Now, let's say he goes out on a call. Person doesn't need to be hospitalized, but they're in crisis. They really need help, and they're willing to get help. Hey, get an appointment with Shawn the next day, right? Like, how great would that be? I'm out on a call. I can give you an appointment. I know for myself, like if I've had like anxiety, panic attack, telling me like, hey, I can see you tomorrow. That in itself like reduces the anxiety, the crisis, because you feel like, okay, somebody's got me tomorrow. So Shawn, we're coming for you because it's going to be like, okay, Shawn, give us the appointment so that we can get individuals in for treatment.
You've never given me a warning before, so I mean.
So funny.
Hey, I also wanted to comment on what Manny was saying, because we are considering everything, like literally everything. Because when Manny was commenting on the acronyms, like we thought about that. We're like, this is getting out of control, right? The PMRT, the latest one is MCOT, which is for the contracted teams. And so, Jen, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this or not, but we're moving towards like sort of a universal acronym. And I think right now what is at least being talked about is field intervention teams, right? FIT.
Yeah, you can talk about it.
Okay.
I mean, we're on coffee with a side of healing. We can talk about anything. Right?
I need to
breaking news.
Quick disclaimer for everybody in this private room right now. So we're officially on YouTube.
You tell us now.
So Jen, when you were saying about your son and you were mentioning how this needs to be taught in schools and how he explained it, initially I was thinking, yeah, such a great idea. And then I said, wait a minute, you are saying it, people are going to be hearing you give this great explanation of the differences between, which is really, really cool. But it's so funny, you guys keep on saying this, and it just brings me back to what Bridget says. Everything folds into each other. I think we just forget sometimes. Like within this field, there's so many components, right? It's like okay, here we go again. You take a motherboard and you have all these different components in the motherboard, from resistors to memory to you name it, it's on there. But everything folds into each other for the same purpose, basically to be a stronger, better machine, right? To support each other. And that's what I'm hearing from this. And again, I'm just impressed again, because I used to be a call center geek, and that was me. I was like, hey guys, taking calls. But in reality, this is really good work. I'm kudos to both of you and to your team. I can't wait to see what we do in service area 7.
And don't forget, we're going to drop PRC as well as all of our other links. So don't forget, if Jen starts trending, to comment at the bottom right below. So don't forget, coming here to you for Service Area 7, Coffee with the Site of Healing. Drop your comments in the chat. Trending now, Jen Hallman. Right behind her is Shawn.
I've got to
Uh,
ask. Are you guys gonna put one of those thumbnails where like you're pointing at it, you're like that? You know what I mean on those YouTube videos?
I can, but even better. So when we first built out the Service Area 7 website, I think Manny made the joke like, "Hey, Jaime, I'm starting to get all these calls to my cell phone," and the rest of the staff were not complaining, but concerned that they were getting calls. And I'm like, yeah, part of the deal was to list everybody's contact information on the website, right? So I think I have Jen and Shawn's cell phone number, so it'll probably come up on the bottom. I'm teasing.
So fair warning, be careful what number you give Jaime, because he will post it up there and it'll be shared all around.
In all honesty, I think it was part of just us trying to be more transparent. I think when we had that conversation with the chief, the conversation was just trying to be more transparent and accessible to the community. It wasn't like I had something against somebody and was just trying to list everybody. It was just more about transparency and being accessible to the community. But with that said, this is really good. I'm feeling really positive about this. And
but
then
it's awesome. It's really awesome because it's really connecting the dots. I've probably been in the department a little bit longer than Jen, and I can say quite honestly, one of the biggest issues I've always had is that our department is somewhat siloed. We're broken up into different departments, different divisions, clinics, and there's certain areas that we're all very territorial about, but programs like these really do help connect the dots and create that, it sounds corny, but safety net, where really everything's interconnected and we're brought together really to address a need of the community. So it's awesome that we're coming into the 21st century, even being able to share this information just online for everyone. But honestly, don't be surprised if you get calls. I've gotten calls ever since we put our stuff out on the microsite from people from out of state asking about information, and they're thinking about moving to LA County. So they want to know where they can get connected with services. So it's no joke, really. What we're kind of playful about it here, but people do really access this information, and it's especially something as new as this. And I can honestly tell you, 988 ACR. Those are probably the two biggest areas I get questions about on a daily basis. About what is it? How do we get there? How is it different from 911? How is it different from PMRT? So this is really useful for our community. So thank you both for being here.
That's what I get asked the most about too, Manny.
I have a question. So is 988 only for adults, or is it also for adolescents and youth?
Anyone, everyone, anyone. If you want to know if it's for you, it's for you. And I think, I think, Manny, you asked this question. I realized I didn't answer it. It's like, what's the availability? So 988 available 24/7, 365. It's always there. I was just looking at some, not to geek out on data, but DD Hirsch 988, they give us data on how they're doing. That's part of, what's required. They answer calls within 15 seconds on average, right? That's pretty good. And, in crisis, every second matters. So if I'm, in crisis, it's like I want to know it's going to get picked up right away. So they do pick it up on average 15 seconds. I will also add is that if for some reason they can't, right? Like they got a flood of calls at one time, because this is national, it's connected to all these other call centers. So once it hits 30 seconds, it reroutes that call to another call center that can pick it up, like a backup, which I think is just really kind of comforting to know of they got me, right? Like they're going to pick it up.
That's awesome.
So it is 365, 24/7. What we're working on right now, kind of the big area, is our field response and making sure from a field response. So, called 988 they can't handle it over the phone, right? They've tried, but really this is you need somebody there with you. So we want to get to a point where we're 24/7 with our field response as well. We're not there yet. That is a kind of a gap. I will say, not kind of, it is a gap in our system. We also don't have enough teams. Like, we need it. So that's why we're contracting out. We're getting contracts in place. We're getting things in place. We're adding peers to all of our field response teams so that they all have a peer and a clinician on them. So we're working towards being 24/7 there. Super exciting thing. Like, I was just talking to somebody, he's like, can we do a press release on this? Like, this is big. We had our first contracted field response team go out on Monday. So they've started, they're up and running. So that's, that's one more team, that can go out, and we're working on, bringing anybody out there that hears this and you're interested in doing this work, go, look, there's job openings in this area, whether you're a peer or a clinician, like, we need you. So sorry, I had to do the plug, right? Like,
Oh, you're good. I'm just not sure if you know what you're asking for, but okay, you're good. You're good. That's all I'm like, no.
hey, we
it's
need
fine.
you. We need
Okay.
you. You want to help. Like, crisis is not an easy job, and it's going to be 24/7. So, somebody who has a heart and a passion for this, we need you as part of our network doing this, and it's an exciting time to be there. So that's kind of a piece that we're working on, and then just also making sure that we have enough urgent cares, crisis stabilization facilities, right, in all areas, so that we aren't, having to rely on a psych hospital when we don't need one, right? So we're making sure that's coming on board. So just a lot of exciting things happening so that we can have that full continuum in place when we need it. Vanessa, that was a long, I went way off with the question that you asked, but it just kind of, like, I got to get all my points in because it's exciting.
Yeah, that is very exciting. It's something that our community definitely needs. I mean, not only that, but you're providing prevention. I can see a lot of youth that are struggling at night by themselves, having no suicide ideation, have no one to talk to just pick up that phone, and you can be the line to just connect them to resources and actually save their life at night. It's really important, and it's something that's definitely needed. And I love how you're overseeing the person as a whole, right? Not just this idea that it's just in crisis, but also including, culture, maybe even also including spirituality, peers. It's important to really see the person as a whole person, right? And not just pick and choose how we can address them. So I think that's amazing.
Got to make a comment on that, Vanessa. I met, this was about a month ago, I met a colleague who asked about ACR, and I shared how the work involves 988, and then she shared how much 988 helped her recently during a crisis that her daughter had. And she had said that in the middle of the night, her daughter was, experiencing just extreme anxiety, racing thoughts, difficulty sleeping, and helplessness. And then she wanted to call 988 for the first time because her daughter had heard about it. I think she was like 19 years old. And so for the first time at 1 a.m., she felt more comfortable texting. And so she texted 988, and she got in contact with a counselor named Madison. I remember that. And this counselor walked her through this exercise called deconstructive writing. And that night, she totally de-escalated. Her distress was managed. She learned this coping skill that helped her, like, ongoing. And so this is the type of situation that could have led to like a PMRT, a FIT response.
Or even a law enforcement one, right, Shawn? It was like, if you're the parent, your kid's having anxiety, you don't know what to do. So you call, like, oh, I'll call 911. And then all of a sudden you have law enforcement. And
Exactly. So
this is that fear that they don't want to come and tell their mom because they don't want to go through that whole trauma again, right? I not only that, but then maybe even feeling like a criminal, right? Going through a crisis and I need support, but yet you're bringing a cop to come help me with my mental status, which, I feel like our law enforcement is more connected with crime, right? Solving crime and protection, like your son said, which was a perfect idea to really understand the difference between 988 and 911. If I'm going through a crisis, I'm a youth, and I see a police officer, I'm feeling almost guilt and shame, fear at the same time, plus going through whatever emotion I'm going through. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, so the story that she told me just highlighted exactly what we're talking about when we say diverting away from police calls. So it was an awesome thing to hear.
You know what? You know what comes to mind when you guys were talking, and here we go again. I'd love to see that decision tree. I had a decision tree for my staff in terms of if they say this, we do this. They say this, we do this. I would love to see what your decision tree looks like, Shawn. That'd be amazing, right? The steps you go through, the different points of triage, the different many assessments you have to do to determine at what level and what right action to take.
It's hard to remember, Jaime, because I don't know how long ago you were in one of the presentations, but it evolved to a point where we were sort of showing the decision tree on a chart. And so we have that. It's not exactly easy because no matter how much you put it into this like decision tree, there's so much gray, which is part of what makes the work of a clinician so valuable, because that's so much of our work is just all subjective. So
absolutely. It's funny. I remember, again, just going back, people would say, because I would get crisis calls all the time, and people would say to me, "You're so calm. How come you feel so comfortable doing what you're doing?" And I'm like, I've come to the realization that I can only do so much over the phone. As long as I try to help, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm going to put you in connection with the best resources that I can, but there's only so much you can do over the phone. And I think that's a real realization that needs to happen in order for that individual to feel comfortable doing that type of job, right? Being able to do a triage, being able to try to make the best determination to help that person and connect them. But definitely, again, just monumental work.
I was gonna, so I'll also, I think one of the other big pieces here, and tell me if you guys want me to, but I think a big piece, and we got a way to go on this, is working with law enforcement. And so, there are going to be situations in which, for the safety of the individual, for the public, for the communities, we do need law enforcement. And so we need to find a way to really partner in those situations and then be doing it together for the best interests of the individual, how to cause the least amount, hopefully not traumatizing individuals, but really taking it forward with a mental health focus, but then ensuring we're, creating that safe environment. So that's another, when we talk about ACR, and kind of like, it's exciting, but it's also very overwhelming when you think of, there's 80, 90 different law enforcement agencies in LA County. And it's like, but I'm gonna have to go talk to each one of them. But I think there's really interest, even from law enforcement, of, we agree mental health should be handling these calls. It shouldn't be us. So how can we connect to 988 and divert calls over? How can we get you involved? And then if we're both needed, right, how do we do that for the best interests of the individual? So I think we have a ways to go, because that's a huge system. But if we don't address that system, then we're never going to hit our vision with ACR. And I think
Absolutely
we can do it. We have
you.
some really exciting things. I think some partnerships happening. I think there's a lot of exciting work there. Sorry, Vanessa, I cut you off.
It really takes a village. That's know that you're right on point with that, because for sure, law enforcement, their intentions are not to go and harm somebody. That's not their intention. Their intention is to protect. But when they don't have that trauma-informed knowledge, it's like their hands are kind of tied, and they're being taught to, be defensive and protect and protect and protect. And sometimes, there's a confusion, right, between really protecting when it comes to crime and protecting when it comes to mental health. And I think just actually building that collaboration and really being able to educate them, like you said, they are open to it, and we are well aware that these type of crisis calls should be addressed by mental health professionals. But then how do we work together? Because it does take a village. It's all of us coming together to help a client. And like you said, there's a lot of gray area where we need each other to really just support a client. And I think collaboration and education is very important. Training, I think you're right on point with that.
And to get like the tias on board in the community, to get the vecinos, the neighbors on board, different stakeholders, right? In order to be able to ensure that the community is saying, hey, there's this need, how are we going to meet the need, and how do we bridge that divide? So it's just such powerful work to be done, that is being done, and really demystifying something that is a gap, as Jen had mentioned. So, you know, Jen, Shawn already knows, you know, you do your plug here with Service Area 7, all of a sudden calendar's full and you start to do the round. So you've been warned, but just amazing work. It's just
Well,
just
just as long as Manny is equally warned that I'm gonna come out and be like, Manny, what are we setting up here in Service Area 7 to start piloting some of this, you know, full continuum? Like, what are we doing
as
here?
Jen, as my staff can tell you, when it comes down to piloting things, I'm all for it. Right? We volunteer all the time to pilot projects to try and get some stuff going on, because we'd rather have a say in the beginning and see how it works and try and make it work for us. So, hey, I'm there. Let me know when, and we'll get it done. We'll get it going.
What Manny and Brigida are saying are so on point, because my first presentation was with this faith-based that's Service Area 7 thing, and before I knew it, there were seven other presentations. I'm like, whoa, these people are on it. Yeah.
Well, it's trying to get the information out to the community, you know, and especially to something as awesome as this, because like Shawn, even the example that you used, that's awesome, because it really speaks to just the level of training and expertise that these folks have that are responding to these calls. Because to be able to like manage all these calls in such a large county, different type of crises, but to still implement a technique and teach somebody a new skill that they can use to really de-escalate and manage their crisis. That's amazing. That's amazing. It's not just some random person reading off a script. You're talking to somebody who's highly skilled, highly trained, and is actually going to deliver something to you. So that's awesome.
Shawn, and I think, no, go ahead.
No, go.
And I think Shawn, well, not I think, but, you know, Shawn, you saw it firsthand, you know, coming to you first, but, you know, you saw it firsthand how somebody from NAMI said, I'm serving a family, and they said that on TV, they saw 988. What is this? Like, we need it here in Service Area 7. Or somebody from our clergy roundtable, one of the local pastors was saying, hey, 988, and I have people on the doorsteps of my church. How do I support them? How am I able to access 988? Or somebody from our health neighborhood or school-based mental health collaborative, it's like, what is this 988? And so it really was like, hey, here comes Shawn. And then everybody's like, oh, Shawn, we also want all of this great information disseminated out to our faith community, our school-based community, our health neighborhood, because it is so important to have that information. So again, kudos to everybody, but popcorning off to you, Jen.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways, right? It's like, we're sharing the information. Here's some of the resources that are out there. You know, here's what's going on, so you can learn about it. But I think we're learning so much from the community, right? What do you need so that we can make this successful? Because if we just have a call center and field response teams and places to go, right, that's good. But if it's not meeting the needs of the community or not delivered in a way, you know, that the community can really, you get what they need out of it and be happy with the services they got, or at least feel like they were helped, like, then we're going to miss our mark. So it's like, I know there's so many like presentations, you know, where Shawn's done them or I've done them. And it's like, we've learned like, oh, okay, we need to think about that. How can we plan? How do we address that issue? You know, what are we going to add in with that? And so I think it certainly is going both ways. as it should, right? Is we want this to be a project and a program that really meets the needs of the community. Because this is needed, right? I mean, this is just so needed. And especially now with COVID and, the trauma of all of that. I mean, they need help and we need to address this. There's a mental health crisis out there. And I almost want to call or chat 988 just to get that same skill that they got when they chatted. I'm like, I need that just on a regular basis. So maybe I should call in and get that because, I think it's things that we all need.
It's so funny you say that. It's exactly what we did or what we do with our team. Before we develop a group, we send surveys, we engage the community. We want to find out what it is they need. Again, I'm a musician. I can make a music for a group and I'd be satisfied with myself, but no one would show up. And I think that's the same thing you're trying to relate, that we really have to engage the community and find out. But I did kind of want to segue to something I think I forgot saying or doing. So for our regular listeners, who are probably not that many, but still we have regular listeners or viewers now. We've been doing something new, I say for the last few episodes, where we're actually out in the community. What we're doing is we're supporting local restaurants or venues that will have us. So today, I'm not sure if any of you can tell, but a few of us here are in person at a coffee shop. And the name of the coffee shop is Cake and Coffee. Is that correct? I think I got it right. And they were so awesome as to host us. And I think it's just probably really staying true to the mission and vision of our service area, really coming to the community, supporting these local businesses, trying to give them a shameless plug, but also kind of trying to wrap them in this whole entire thing that we're doing together as the Department of Mental Health, Service Area 7, bringing these great resources to everybody, communicating the information in a way that's understandable, having a good time as we try to do this professionally. But I almost forgot to do my shameless plug for Cake and Coffee one more time. Their water is delicious. It tastes like water. But with that said, I'm looking at the time and OMG, we've almost been recording, I want to say like for an hour and 20 or so. So this is really good. I'm not sure if there's any final words or last words you all would like to share with us. You drop your phone numbers, but that's up to you.
Hey, can I do so can you let the coffee shop know, right? If there is ever a crisis that outside, right? Tell them call 988. And I give this I really, because Shawn's heard this story a million times. But I go running, I'm out in the community, and my local bagel shop that I go to, right? I ran there one morning to get bagels, and there was a woman outside and probably experiencing auditory hallucinations, but she was outside talking to herself, and you just saw the customers kind of walk from the outside tables and go inside. And the store owner, who I know, lovely lady, I talk to her every weekend when I go get my bagels, didn't know what to do, right? And she's like, I want to get this person help, and I don't know what to do. So she called 911. But really, we want to be in a place where she knows, I'll call 988, right? This is not a crime, right? This is not something I need law enforcement. This is where I need trained mental health professionals to help in this situation. And so go give the number to the coffee shop there, because I think that's where we want to get, where everybody knows 988 I can. And so go give the number to the coffee shop there, because I think that's where we want to get, where everybody knows 988 I can go there and get the help that we need. And then our job, Shawn and my job, is to make sure that we have that continuum. So if 988 can't help them over their phone, they can get them connected to a field response team that can come out quickly, right? Not in 4 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours, right? They need help then, but can come out then and help in that situation. So that's my plug for you.
Awesome. You need stickers. You need to work on stickers and magnets. And then the kids love those pop what are they called, Vanessa? The
Yeah,
pop.
like those pop things now.
Poppets.
The phone
Yeah,
pop.
the poppets.
Yeah.
I have so many of
And
those
your
in my
hashtag,
business.
don't forget to work on the hashtag. Very important with our followers. Yes, hashtag.
Thanks for crazy hair.
Well, again, thank you all for being here again. Again, this is our 11th episode, which is again monumental to us. I never thought we'd get past number 1. I thought my chief was gonna put in a quick call and be like, "Hi, miss, stop playing around. Goodbye." But this is our 11th episode. We're going strong. I think we're all very proud of the podcast in our service area. I think it shows it. Just all together, we're all from different departments in a sense, but working together collaboratively to share these resources in the community. But thank you both, Shawn and Jen, for being here. You guys are really cool people. Aside from what people say, you guys are actually really cool. So I'm gonna set people straight right now. You two, you know it.
Yeah.
Anybody else wanna say any last words?
Yeah, I mean, going into this, I don't know what we're getting into. I've never done a podcast before, but I will say this is that hanging out with you all, it hasn't really felt like work. And that's what it's kind of about. Like when I start to feel burnt out when I'm around people like you all, when I'm connecting with Jen, it's what re-energizes me.
Yeah.
And so the real importance of getting out there and the things that you all do is that because they're kind of like kindred spirits here. Everyone, I remember I met Manny once a long time ago, and he was talking so excitedly about these things, and I was thinking to myself, I was less involved then, but I was like, what's he so excited about, right? And you need to come across people like you that are going to invigorate you, and so I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you having us, and I appreciate this time, and it's what keeps us going. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'll say one last thing. So when I met Manny used to say to me, "I'm just trying to build a good team." And I never understood that. And now I totally get it. I'm like, yeah, I just echo what he says all the time. I'm like, I'm just trying to build a good team, but I feel we're there. I feel we're there and just working more collaboratively, folding into each other, even, across service areas, across units, kind of really supporting each other in what we're trying to do, because we're all really trying to do this great work. And it's not easy, but definitely thank you all for being here. Again, who used to say salutations? Was it Bugs Bunny? Who used to say salutations? I'm not sure if it was Bugs Bunny. Sorry, aging myself. But thank you all for being here for our 11th episode of Coffee with a Side of Healing. Visit our website, visit our Facebook. Oh, we now officially have a Facebook group. I'll post it in the bottom. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We'll share the emails. We'll share the contact information. And again, thank you both, Jen and Shawn, for being here.